A very good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Perfect. So let's get started. So as the topic suggests, what we will do today is like we'll start with we'll try to understand like what is UX case studies, how to build a perfect portfolio, and how to stand out from the others. So that is what we'll try to cover from in this session, and I'll try to give you a skeleton of like what you should write in your UX portfolio, and how also you should present your UX portfolio, and though each and every project will be different, and if you're working in a big team, your involvement might be different, and if you're working as a solo designer, as a freelancer, or in a small team, then your role and responsibility will differ. So in those cases, you might be responsible from the scratch, like that is the beginning till the end. But when you're working in like bigger companies, like where there is like a particular skill set of like or a person for doing a particular task, then your responsibilities might be small. But when presenting the UX case study, you'll have to see like what role you played in the entire process, and then do the case study. So we'll see that in this session. So who am I? I am Manpreet, and I have been a UX consultant. I've been working in this industry since last 15 years. Grew from the art director to the user experience designer, and have consulted like a lot of companies, gave them consultancy and so on. So I have good experience, and what I'm teaching, what I'm like sharing is all from the knowledge that I've gained over the past 15 years. So today's agenda is basically understanding why we need a portfolio, and what are the steps to create a perfect portfolio, and then when presenting the portfolio or creating the portfolio, what should be included, like how many case studies, what are case studies, understanding those things. And then since our birth, like we have listened to a lot of stories, and like we are accustomed, we are used to storytelling. So we'll use that particular skill to write and draft our case studies. And then we'll also talk about, when presenting the case study, we'll be talking about like what should be the UX process that you should mention, and also like how and where you can publish your case studies, right? So we all are designers, right? And we always try to grow we always want to grow in a field. We always want to reach new height, or if we are working as a freelancer, we want to get good job, good clients, and so on. So basically we want this, right? And in order to get this, what we need to do is like we need to sell ourselves. And portfolio is one way. Like if you have a good portfolio, people will listen to you, people will reach out to you, so you will get good number of good works, good clients, and so on. So the portfolio is key here for every designer. And so I've been in this industry since long. So whenever I talk with like my juniors or like my colleagues and so on, so they always ask like different questions, and these are some of the questions that they have asked, like, or I have always been asked. So basically one is like and these are all related to the case studies. So one is like should I write a detailed case study for my UX design portfolio, or just show deliverables? So this is one very common question. Similarly, the other questions are like, how many projects should a UX portfolio have? Similarly, if I'm a UX researcher, do I also need a UX portfolio? Or if I have a UX portfolio, what am I missing in my portfolio? And similarly, if I've done different designs for a mobile app or a website, then how do I present the different types of work, and how do I present that in my case study? Similarly, what are the different artifacts that I should present in my case study? And when the recruiters are looking at the case studies, what are they trying to look? How do they scan the case study? So those things. And I worked in a large size project. Yeah, this is very important. So basically, if you worked in a big team, how should you present your case study? And similarly, if we have got other skill sets like copywriting, like graphic designing, illustrations, and so on, so should I present those skills in my case study? So we'll try to answer these things in this session today. And yes, there are other people also, like you are just starting in the industry. So what should they do? Like how should they present their or create their portfolio? What should be mentioned in the portfolio? So those things. So we'll try to answer these questions. So whenever I get this kind of questions, so basically I always guide them, and I always tell them to create the portfolio, and also tell them like at least they should have 3 to 4 or 3 to 5 case studies. So I try to tell them like, okay, so if you have not worked on a real life project, then try to take a challenge, try to take create a brief, and then do the entire, follow the UX process, create a solution, and then present that in the form of a case study. So for the starters, you can do that, right? So now that is what we'll cover in this session. But before we move forward, I'll just do a small recap of like what is user experience, and then few other principles of user experience, and then we'll get into the process, and then the how to create the case study. So when we talk about the user experience, is basically what? It's basically the interaction between the user and the any product. It could be digital product, it could be non-digital product, and so on. So basically, two things are involved here. Like one is the user, and the other is the system or the product, right? Similarly, it deals with what? It deals with people. So people interact with the product, and then how they feel, how they enjoy, how they have enjoyed. So that signifies the experience. And the entire process of following the UXD or creating the user experience is called as the UXD. So user experience, UXD, so these are important. And when we talk about the user experience, we talk about two things. One is the customer centricity and the user centricity. So basically, when we design solutions using the user experience process, we think and we design for the users. And whenever and whatever we are doing, we keep them at the center of everything, and then craft and design the solutions. So that is basically the user experience. And we can follow different user experience. There are processes. There are different processes. Double diamond UX process. Then we have HCD process. That's the human-centered design process, or the design thinking process. So though we have different types of process, but what everyone is doing is like in the process is, one, they're empathizing, they're trying to understand what is the challenge, what is the problem statement, and then they do the research, they do the understanding, and then once they have the understanding of like what the problem is, they do the ideation, and then try creating solutions for the problem. And during the ideation, they might come up with like multiple solutions, but after doing a lot of design thinking and so on, so they select one solution, and then create the final versions of the solution, and then deliver it to the market after doing the testing and so on. So that is basically what the UX process does. So understanding, and then researching, and then ideating, and then creating the product and delivering it to the market. So whatever process you follow, so that is the general, that is normal stages, right? And when we talk about the user experience, so there are like different skill sets required for a perfect team, or like doing the right experience. So people who will be involved will be people who will do the research, then the interaction, information architecture, then interface designer, then the engineers or the developers who will work on creating the solution or the product. So there are like so many different skill sets or different people involved in the entire UX process, right? And perfect UX is what? Perfect UX is understanding what the user wants, and what you want to offer or tell or give it to the user, and what that user does well. So basically, user is used to certain pattern and certain behavior. So using that, and also understanding and keeping in mind the needs of the user, and then what you as a product owner want to give it to the user. So understanding these three things together, and once you are able to understand and do the perfect alignment, then only you will be able to deliver the right product to the user. So the perfect balance is very important, and at this place, what becomes important is what plays a good role is the UX strategy. So basically, if you are able to create the UX strategy and are able to create the perfect balance between what the user wants, or like what he's used to, and also what you as a company, because you as a company or the product owner are spending a lot of time, and then what will happen is like if you're not able to meet the needs or increasing the number of registrations or like generating more revenue, if the alignment is not perfect, you'll not survive. So basically, a perfect alignment has to be done, right? So this is what I generally do. So basically, whenever working on any design product, so I try to first align between the user and the businesses, the stakeholders. Then try to learn the problem, then do the ideation, then plan like how to execute, or what should be done, and then defining the perfect solution and delivering, and then evolving. So basically, this is at a very high level what I generally do. So if you see on the top, these are the different activities that I perform, and at the bottom, what you see is the different artifacts or the outcome of the activities. So during the alignment, I do the alignment workshop, and that is basically understanding the scope, business vision, product goals, understanding who the users are, what key products or features you wish to offer to the users, and at a very initial level, like what should be or could be the user journey and how the product roadmap will look like. So those things, at a very high level, understanding the different artifacts. Then next is basically doing the benchmark, that is all the research work that you do, and then present that research work. Then third is the ideation. Basically all the design thinking happens here. You do the scenarios, you do the feature metrics, the information architecture you define, and so on. So once you're done, what you do is you start prioritizing like what should be delivered. Right after this, what you do is you start doing all the prototyping work, and once that is done, you do the testing and then deliver to the market. So this is a lot of information here, but this is the complete set of things that I generally do. And depending on the kind of the project that I work, so I pick up things, like in the alignment workshop, I might need just two of the activities. Similarly, when doing the planning, so I might do just one. So depending upon the kind of the project that I'm working, I pick different activities, right? And as a UX designer, what we do is we follow UX process, what's suitable to us, and we try to create the best experience. But before understanding like how to create the perfect product, we need to understand the 13 tenets or the 13 principles of user experience. And Robert was the person, like he was the man who came up with this 13 tenets, and he wrote this in his book, Author of the Experience Required. So he's basically he's the author of the Experience Required, and he came up with 13 tenets. And it's very good to understand before getting into understanding what or how should we create or draft the case studies. So one is what? So this is basically the high-level definition of what the user experience is. So user experience is the net sum of every interaction a person has with a company. So it could be the marketing collateral, it could be the calling the call center, or the product itself. So it's basically the complete interaction, and it is affected by what? The company's vision and beliefs it holds and its practices. So this is one. The second is it's strategic. It is driven by a vision and guides and justifies every design decision. So basically everything is done strategically and after doing the perfect alignment with everything. Third is every detail of the company and its product says something about it. So every experience, strategy, and designs ensure that these messages. So this is basically the branding principles, or it could be the company's vision or mission statement. So there should be a perfect alignment between those mission statement, vision statement, and what your product is doing. So that's important. And also UX process is experience is a process of discovery, vision definition, strategy, planning, execution, and measurement and iterations. So it's a continuous process. A lot of activities happens, and it requires flexibility. Basically, that's what it's called as the iterative design process. Third is great products and services require bravery. So after doing all the research, all the learnings, so you can't simply go and create the product. You need to think a lot. You need to do a lot of design thinking, and then you create the product or the experience. So a lot of courage is required. So this you need to understand, because at times you will be taking decisions which you might not be sure of, like whether it will work or not work. So courage is required. The next is product is rarely the mere logical result of research. So as I said earlier, so it's not just like after doing your research you will be able to create a good product. No, so there are like a lot of your thinking that goes into it. You put in a lot of efforts, you do a lot of thinking, and then create the product. So therefore it says like a lot of determination goes into creating the final product and the experience. And we as a designer, like we do a lot of problem solving for the real world. So that is also important, because we learn, do the research, and from our own experience we try to create experiences that is real, that can change or will change the real world's problem. Similarly, the goal of the designer is to listen, observe, understand, sympathize. So it's all about understanding users, listening to the problem statement, listening to different stakeholders you're working with, and then create the right product. So this is important again. The job is of a designer is like a writer, is to twist and stretch and shape a conceptualized piece of work. So basically, it's again like it's like the artist. You work as an artist. You try to create an experiences that was never there, and then you try to create something that is meaningful for the user. So this is what it means, and the 10th point is very important because designers act not on opinion, not on just on opinion, but on insight. So after getting the results, quantitative, different type of data. Once you get it, you work on, you take that as the basis, and then you create the experiences. So basically, that's why it said that the designer should work or create a data-driven design rather than just doing the design from their own thinking or just by having discussion with few people. So data-driven design is very important. And then designers enable companies to change the world. This is perfect because by having the right experiences, you can create a product or the best or the product with the best experience. And when we talk about the user experience, it's all about the user. So this is the key. This is one of the most important tenets. And you should remember this, that when you're designing any experience, you're designing it for the user. And here, we should remember that designers are not just someone who takes the suggestions or the orders and then do the design. You should work as a leader. You should lead the product that you're working on. Though you need to take the feedback and suggestions from others, but you are the one who should take the final decision of what should go and how the experience should be. Right? So you should act and work as a leader. So this is very important. I just wanted to highlight this because these are the very popular and very important tenets. And once you understand these 13 tenets, so you'll have a complete understanding of what you as a UX designer are supposed to do. Now, let's continue with the main topic. So that is basically the UX portfolio. So what is UX portfolio? First of all, we need to understand that. So for the people who don't have any portfolio, so portfolio is basically the representation or the showcase of all the work that you have done. So basically, if you're a UX designer, so as a UX designer, what are the different projects that you have worked on? So it is a showcase of that. And when creating a UX portfolio, your responsibility or your role should be to pick and present the best work that you have done. Even if you have done or created suppose 15 different work or have worked on different applications, but choose the best ones that you have worked on and then present that in your portfolio. So the best work should go on your portfolio, and the portfolio should be such that it should catch the attention. It should make the other people go through your work, so it should catch the attention of the other people. And for all the designers, it's one of the most important asset. It is one of the most important tool or the marketing tool, you can say. So that will make you reach, a lot of people, make you get attention from the other people and so on. So what are the important things or the important points or why we need a UX portfolio? One, because once you have the portfolio, it will represent you as a brand. So the kind of work that you have presented on your portfolio, so people will judge you from that. So if you presented really good work, people will consider you as a good UX person or a designer. And similarly, the kind of work that you have presented, it will reveal who you are as a designer. And when you're presenting the case studies or the work, you should present everything, like the detailed step that you took. And once you presented that, people can easily understand what is the process that you follow, right? And also it presents your success stories and work. Similarly, it's important because that will help you get a job. And even if you want to get extra work as a freelancer, it will help you attract new clients. So that's why this UX portfolio is a must if you want to grow professionally, either on the job or as a freelancer. And no portfolio means no job, no clients. And as I said, so portfolio helps you get the right person's attention. And so earlier, like we used to have like a lot of different people, a lot of different skill sets, like the graphic designer, the web designer. But nowadays, no more web designers. People don't call themselves as web designers. They call themselves as the UX designers. Even if the people who don't have an understanding of the UX process, they call themselves as a UX designer. So it has everyone now, since everyone is UX designer, it has become competitive. There are like a lot of people for single job posting job. So there are a lot of people who apply for that particular job, and for the recruiter, it becomes very difficult to select the right person. So in those cases, only your portfolio that stands out can help you get the call from the HR. So in this time when the competition is big, you need to create a portfolio that is very different from the other, very unique, and that should catch the attention of the recruiter. And having a nicely designed portfolio is the key here. You can get good job, good work, or the clients after having a good portfolio. And when we are creating a portfolio, so all the case studies should present like the problem statement and then how you created the solution. So the complete process from the start till the end. So everything should be represented in the case study, and we'll learn about how to create that. And when writing the project descriptions in the case study, we should be using very simple languages, because the recruiters might not be aware of the technical jargons and the languages related to the industry. So you should use simple languages so that the recruiter is able to understand and learn like what you are and what you have done, and technical jargon should not be used. And similarly, when you're creating the portfolio or the case study, so you should highlight your role. If you worked as a UX researcher, then mention that, like, yes, you worked as a UX researcher, and this is how you contributed in the entire process. And one more key point here is, if you're when you're working or applying for a job, and if the job is related to the finance domain, then tailor your portfolio for that. So if you have any product or any case study that did for the finance industry, so put that at the top, and then the others at the others later. So do that. And also, like, before creating the right portfolio, you should understand your skill set, and then tailor your or modify or customize your portfolio, and make the portfolio that is for your skill set and that talks about your skill set. And so as a UX person or a UX designer, we might be playing different roles. I might be a UX researcher, or just doing the strategy, or just doing the interaction, or I might be the product designer, in the sense like I might be the product owner and interface designer. So you should know like where you stand, what your skill set, and then start creating your portfolio. And yep, so this is good. Okay, so when working in the process, these are the different roles that we play, right? So when working in a small project, we might play the role of the UX researcher, the business analyst, information architecture, interaction designer, visual designer, or copywriter and UX designer. So different skill sets or different roles that we might play. So you should understand who you are. And so the people on the right is basically are the specialist. And if you're doing anything related to this, then you are a specialist in the UX design. And if the people on the left do contribute in the process, but they are not the specialist. So just understand who you are, and then we'll see like how to create the case studies. And before creating the case study, these are the few questions that you need to ask yourself. Are you a UX researcher or a designer? Or what role do you play? Are you a UX journalist, just the project manager, or doing certain tasks, but not the full end-to-end? And what are the steps of your UX process? Write it down on paper, try to understand that, right? And when conducting the research, what are the different methods that you generally take and adopt? Similarly, are there any problem-solving approaches that you value above others? So basically, what are the techniques or tools that you use to solve certain problems? And and where do you stand? So basically, are you just at the start of the career, or like at the mid end, or like at a senior position? So So basically your portfolio will differ or change basis your experience, and if you have the experience of leading team, so understand that and then use that in when presenting or creating your portfolio and then the case study. This I've already mentioned. So basically, when you're submitting your resume and the portfolio, adapt your portfolio to the job opportunity, like the company you are applying for, and So now let's start or get into the real case study thing. So basically, these are very common questions. So basically, how many projects do I need in my portfolio? So these are basically, you can add like 3 to 5 UX case studies to start, and instead of going for the quantity, go for quality. And how should I showcase my other skills such as a graphic designer, branding? Showcase that, but present it in a separate page, not on the same page. So separate. So like if I have a graphic design skills, mention that, but don't put everything in one page. Segregate or create unique pages for each skill sets. And do I need an online portfolio? Is an online portfolio must? It is not must, but it's always good to have your online portfolio, because what will happen is like you will always be accessible. People will be able to access your portfolio every time 24/7. So but in case you don't have, so you'll have to like share a PDF or a PowerPoint or so on. So that's why like having a portfolio is always good. And what should I include in my UX project? So basically what you should define your own process. So every designer has his own unique approach or like unique style of working. So whatever style you're working or whatever your process you include in the process of the complete design, so you should present that in the case study. And how do I build my portfolio in a time efficient manner? So basically here what I want to tell everyone is like whenever you're designing a portfolio, first create content and then get into the final designing of the portfolio. So basically, once you have in the document, in the Word file, if you have drafted like all the stages that you followed, every activities that you did, and also if you'll start putting all the pointers, then it will become very easy for you to create your case study. And as I said earlier, so basically when we are working or presenting the case study, choose the best projects. 3 to 4 you should have. Having more is fine, but like 3 to 4 projects should be there. And when designing the case study, mention your process, what are the steps you took, and how did you reach from point A to point B. So point A being the start, or where you were asked to do something, you were given a challenge, and then point B is basically the complete end. So basically you were able to craft the solution and then deliver it to the market. So what were the different steps that you followed? And and this is good. So this is important. So basically, hiring managers are not an expert UX designer, right? So basically, what they do is they just scan your portfolio, scan your case studies, and if they are able to see that yes, you have brought a big change by doing by following the UX process and designing the solution, it will catch their attention, and they will then call you for the interview. But in case it's like any other case study, they might not be interested, they might not call you. So basically presenting your data, presenting what changes you brought in the entire process, or what project by drafting or changing the experience, what changes you brought. So presenting that is very important, and we'll see like how we do that. And this is again very important. So when presenting your case study, use the power of storytelling. Like people who are very good in storytelling, they are able to create the perfect case study. So since birth, like we have listened to different case studies, and we have come across different storytellers, be it our mother, grandmother, or like friends and so on. So some people are very good in storytelling while the others were not. So try to remember like why they was a good storyteller. Use those techniques, those tricks, and then use that in your case studies. So basically why we should use this technique, because it's easy to understand and remember stories when there are a lot of visuals, and it becomes very easy to like get the clues and then remember it. So it's important. And also when you're telling the story, it connects emotionally with you, and people are able to understand and remember. So we'll try and use the power of storytelling in our case studies. And when I talk about case studies, so we need to understand that there are 3 elements in in the process of storytelling. So one is you. So basically you are the storyteller, and the story is basically your case study, and then the audience. So you need to understand this, and then basis, if you have a good understanding of this, so you will be able to draft a good case study, and they're always all connected. They're not isolated, and you will be able to able to influence the HR person only once you are if you are able to create the perfect story. So basically, here you are the storyteller, and case study is basically the story, and the hiring manager is the audience. So we'll see now, and also we need to understand that just like what we have in the storytelling, so different stages. So basically the introduction, the middle part, and the end. So in the case study also we'll follow the same. So basically there's an introduction, we create some problem in the story, then we try to do show some action happening in middle, and then at the end we show the resolution, a happy or the sad end. So basically this is the process that we follow in storytelling, and same thing we follow in our UX case studies. And so this was the storytelling, and similarly we'll follow the same in our case studies. So we'll start with an intro. So it's basically, we'll say like who is the company, for whom you're working, who gave you the brief or the challenge, and what they specialize in, and what was the ask, like what was the task that was given to you, and what were you trying to solve, and what was your role in the entire process of the experience designing. Just a minute. Pranay, I will answer this question at the end of the session. Okay. So the intro is basically where you try to understand what is the problem, and who gave the problem, and so on. And middle is basically the entire UX process, the process that you followed to create the solution. So basically you did the design thinking processes, you followed design thinking, and then you followed or used different research methods, and after you did all the research, you presented that research in different forms, and then once those were designed and defined, you created the solutions, and then solutions was tested and then delivered to the market. So all the process, like whatever processes or what are the stages or steps you followed, so you need to present that in the middle part, and then at the end is basically summarizing everything. What is that you achieved? What was the result? What were the learnings? And it's always good to present everything in numbers, because that is what the HR person or the people or the person from the UX team is looking for or looks for, right? So if we have to detail the beginning, so in the beginning we start with two things. One is the introduction, and the second is the information. So when we talk about the introduction, it is basically the brief, the project brief. What is the brief of the project? And so that is basically what was the task, and what was this challenge, what is the current challenges of the people, and what was the problem statement. So basically you try to define why you were doing, or why you worked on that product, why was there a need of working on that particular product. So that is basically the introduction, when we define the problem statement, and who gave you that task, so which company, whether you was working on a company or client or so on. So basically you try to define everything related to that. Next is basically the information, the background information. Now, so more information about the work or the product or the project you are working on, and what was the complete scope of the project, and who were the users who were using the product or will use the product, and the company, again, like who gave you that, right, who asked you to design that solution, and what was your role. So as we saw this in the previous in first part, so this is basically the bifurcation of that first beginning part, right? Now, once you understand these things, so next is basically the process and the experience. And in the process, we basically follow the UX process, like whatever we did in the while following the UX process. So basically, first always comes research. Once you have understanding of what the problem is, you do a lot of research. You do a lot of contextual interviews, a lot of other things, like ethnography study. You go and do interviews, and even if you have an existing application, you do a lot of testings and so on. So basically, you do a lot of research, even reading a lot of literatures, and so on. So mention those here, like whatever you did, and present it with some proofs, like put some pictures, put some images, or the rough notes that you made while doing the interviews and so on. So basically, at each stage, whatever you did, put the numbers, put the photographs, and so on, and what was the result of the research? What were your findings? So you put that in the first part. So that is basically the research part. Then once you were done with the research, what you did, the next is obviously the ideation. Once you have the insights, once you have a lot of data from different resources, so you try to understand that data and then start presenting the ideas, after having a lot of design thinking discussions and so on, and then you start doing rough sketches, some rough ideas, like when in the design thinking workshops, you do start doing ideation, that rough sketches on the or the scribbles on the whiteboard, blackboard, or paper. And so these are basically all the ideation that you do with different stakeholders, different teams, and so on. So once you're done with that, so after the ideation, you might have 3 or 4 different solutions, but you can't work on all. So what you do is you decide one and then start doing the real designing. So that is basically you start designing your design system, then style guides and so on, and then the lo-fi, hi-fi designs and so on. So basically the next is the design phase. So whatever you did, you will have to present that, and with proof, like with images, photos and so on. And once everything was done, what you did is like the testing, and whatever were the tools or the methods that you use for testing, put the pictures or what are the findings, the outcomes, and then what was the next step that you took to improve on the findings and so on. So basically you try to present everything, whatever you did in the process and the experience. And then once you were done with everything, once the product was shipped to the market, what you do is you present the final or summarize what happened in the process. So basically, what is the final project? How did it look like? You can even give the prototype, link of the prototype or the final product, and what were the lessons learned. So this is basically the outline of how you create the case study. And when presenting the case study, so these are different points that you try to. So this was basically the outline of the case study. You do the drafting, rough drafting and all. And when presenting this, you at each level, whether it's like the beginning, the process or the end, you start putting these elements in between. So why, and also like aligning it with your goal. So why you want that job, like, and what was the approach and everything and so on. So basically, one is, when presenting or creating this case study, you should understand your personal goals. Start by thinking about your goals and what your ideal job position should be. So basically, whatever your future goals are, you should try to present in your case study. And also present your skills, like everywhere, like wherever you can. So try to present the skill sets required for the job that you're trying to apply for. Similarly, emphasize your unique skill. So if you're very good in research, try presenting everything from the research point of view. If you're very good in creating the personas or other things, so try presenting that, yes, I'm very good in this and this is what I achieved. So like everything around that. And if you're good in everything, then try to showcase everything in the process. And so emphasize about your role. That is very important at each stage of the case study writing. So present your role. If you're very good in UI also, just present that, like how bringing or modifying or changing small elements in the UI brought about a big change in the experience or the stickiness and so on. So present that. And then problem solving, how the entire experience or the solution helped solve the problem. Highlight that at each stages, like if you did testing with the lo-fi design and then you got some result, so how did you improve the experience to cater to that, and how that brought about the change in the experience and so on. And also, whenever writing, always mention processes, like whatever you followed, simple languages, exact methods, and present it with the right proof, photographs and so on. And similarly, talk about the design system you developed, or the lo-fi design, Wi-Fi design, present the image, present the result, and so on. So that is basically the important elements we follow. And when I try and create a case study, this is the format that I follow. That's basically project name, tagline, summary, client name, when I started, major responsibilities, platforms I worked for, design tools, so basically different UX methods that I've took, and what are the key metrics, whom I collaborated with, was I the single person if I'm working on a freelance project, or like if I worked with the team, who were the people involved in the team, and then link to the final project. So this is one real example of the case study, format of the case study. So basically, what is the project, task, taglines, summary of the challenge, client, when I worked, then again the same thing, the tasks and responsibilities, platforms. So key metrics is very important. Try to present that at each point, like wherever you can, like at the beginning, like what are the current downloads or current registrations, or the on time time of the app, like of the users on time, and at the end also mention and repeat, and then mention like what are the changes that happened because of modifying or the improved experiences. Today what we saw was like I tried to put these things, So basically, one was the project summary, like what was the summary, what was the particular product about, like what it was all about, like, and who was the company, and all those things, And then I started putting what is the problem statement. I did my research, I tried putting my context, and then things around that, and whatever interviews I did, whatever problem or the pain points they had, I tried putting everything together, and then So in this particular case, I didn't put, but we generally try to put affinity mapping, and then we try to create personas, and then the customer journey. And once we have that, we start designing or creating design solutions. So basically, that's the product we start designing, and then we start creating the user flows, and then the storyboards. In some cases we don't, or some cases we start straight away get into the doing the wireframes, then sketches, and then finally the visual design, then the prototype, and so on. So basically, this is what we do till the time we are designing the product. So once we have designed the product and the development is done and it's going to the market, so that's done, and then parallelly we also keep doing the testing, right? So these were the formats that we generally follow when doing the case study. So project summary, problem statement, user interviews, or like whatever interviews you did, methods you followed for research, then what were your findings, what are the problem statements or the pain points, and then what are the other artifacts you used or created to present that research, affinity diagram, personas, journey, and then after you're done that, you did design solutions, then so these are basically drafting the solutions or ideating on the solutions, and then user flow, the flow journey, storyboard, sketches. Once you did that, you started doing the wireframes, visual design, prototype, and so on. So once you have presented everything in the case study, at the end you summarize everything. You write the conclusion, like what was the conclusion, what were the key learnings, and what were the next steps, what will happen next, right? And when presenting the end screen or the conclusion or summarizing, we try to present in 3 different ways. So one is what were you able to achieve from the monetary or the money point of view, whether you were able to reduce the cost or the development cost or time and maintenance cost of the application, or call center deflection, say redesign cost. So what were you able to achieve by creating that design? It won't be necessarily related to money, but it can be. Okay, so if it was related to money, what was that? And if you are able to present or back it up with numbers, do that. Similarly, first one was saving money, the second was making money, whether you were able to increase the revenue, the transactions, sales went up, the usage went up, so amount of time people spent on the application increased, or you were able to retain the customers, attract more customers, or increase the market share. So what was that? Do mention that in the case study. And similarly, increasing use. So sometimes it might not be related directly to the money, it could be related to the use. So did the effectiveness improved after the redesign or the experience was relooked at, or the success rate improved, number of errors reduced, or productivity, user satisfaction, support cost, training cost, and so on. So whatever you were able to achieve, present that and back it up with numbers in your case study at the end. And also, when creating the portfolio, do create an about us page and write proper content, or use the right style to create the paragraph, because that give a personality to you, that will make you stand out, and also mention whatever your skill sets are, also about the educational background that you have, and so on. So basically try to present everything about yourself in the best manner, so that the other person, the person, the HR person, the other people at the other end gets attracted to you and wants to talk to you. You can even take the help of a good copywriter to do that, but create this particular page, the about us page, in the best way, so that the other person gets interested, and this should make him or create a want to know more about you, and he should at least call you, for the interview. So that's why, like, including a good about us page is very important. And when creating the about us page, do mention your other contact details, phone number, email, and so on, right? And there are different websites from where we can learn, and these are basically best folios, or the UX folio, Behance, awards. You can go online, read more about how people are getting their case studies, try to learn about them, and see what they're doing, what is the process that they are following, and try to learn and then adapt your process accordingly, and then you can start creating your case studies, right? And when presenting or creating your online portfolio, you can use any of these platforms, be it Behance, Adobe Portfolio is also there, then Squarespace. You can go there, pay a small amount of money, and then buy a subscription and create your website. Wix is there. WordPress is basically, you can create your own website with free templates or paid templates. And then if you don't want to use any external third-party applications, you can create your own websites using HTML and CSS, or by creating or using the service of any developer. And so what we learned in this entire session was that case study is very important, and your case study should be unique. You should be different from the others, and it should distinguish you from the others, because in the industries there are so many designers, so many people who are transitioning into this industry, and in order to stand out, your portfolio should be different, should be unique. And when creating your portfolio, don't mess it up. Create a clean portfolio. Show your process, showcase your skills and your educational background, your good work, and it should show who you are as a designer and what you want to be in the future, right? So that is basically what your portfolio should look like, and how to design a good case study. And that is it. So that is it about the portfolio and the case study, and what you should do, and like how you should craft and design a case study. And try to back up your case study with real examples, real photos, real pictures, so that the other person can believe that yes, it's not something that is faking. It's the real process that he follows in the real world,